Welcome to the Gen X Journey podcast. Dive into all things important to Gen Xers, from advice on aging parents, expert interviews, product reviews, and heartfelt conversations. So put down the joystick, grab your Walkman, dust off your old yearbooks, and welcome to the Gen X Journey.
Hey everyone, and welcome again to another episode of the Gen X Journey podcast. This is Keith Abbott. I'm here with my friends Steve McKelkey and Noel Kirsch, and we are having a really fun deep dive into some really cool history of the 1980s. And today we are getting a little bit of history from Watch Mojo, a little reminiscing on what they think, and we agree for the most part, are some of the top 10 most iconic movie scenes of the 1980s. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with Noel. Noel, on this list, let's just kind of go around this and kind of talk about what we think are some of the best things. So what did you, on the top 10, number 10, what was the number 10 episode there?
I thought the
scene,
one of the most iconic scenes from the 1980s. This is actually from movie in 1986 that I'm sure, everybody, if you haven't seen this, come on, just stop the podcast route now, go find a Blockbuster or someplace or stream it somewhere. Just get it. It's a movie you got to watch. Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh man.
And the specific scene is the parade scene. You guys remember that?
Oh yes.
Yeah,
John Cushane and all that.
Yeah. He's like, the whole premise of the story, if you haven't watched it for some reason, is he's playing hooky from school. Like, Ferris Bueller is a character, and he's got his girlfriend and his best friend Cameron with him, and his girlfriend Sloane. And of course, the Ferris Bueller is the main character, who's played by Matthew Broderick. And he commandeers a mic at the city's Von Steuben Day Parade. And he starts performing a lip sync rendition of Wayne Newton's Danke Shane. But then it really starts when the Beatles' Twist and Shout comes on. And then, it's basically like a downtown, it's like a party going on downtown. So it's not exactly what you would think you'd do if you were trying to like play hooky and stay out of the limelight and not have the stay basically in the shadows. And so anyway, it's a cool scene. If you haven't seen it, it's definitely one of the best ones from a really great movie.
So I was just learning a little bit more about that. So John Hughes, who was the director of the Ferris Bueller's Day Off and so many freaking amazing shows.
Oh my
Interesting enough, he had to pay $100,000 just on the rights to use Twist and Shout.
Really?
Wow. Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Wow.
But the funny thing was, and this is anecdotal, I don't know if it's true or not, but the story goes that he went ahead and still hacked off the Beatles because they added the brass, the marching band in the background. And there's a story that says Paul McCartney said, if it had needed brass, we'd have stuck it on ourselves, so kind of funny. But yeah, one of the most iconic scenes in movies for sure. No question about it. Yeah. Such a good scene. Just the whole thing about Ferris Bueller is just another. If you can't quote at least half the movie, there's something wrong with you as a Gen Xer.
There's a lot of scenes in there that are quotable and a lot of good ones. Great movie.
So Steve, the next one, number 9. So we had a little kind of deliberation about this one. So what do you think?
Yeah, so I remember this one well. I remember the excitement of this building up. So this is from a scene from the Raiders of the Lost Ark, and this is the Golden Idol scene. Mm-hmm. So, I really liked how Watch Mojo sort of made a tribute to this scene because, in a cave that's full of booby traps, Indiana Jones and his companion come across a brilliant golden idol. And they talk about John Williams' string, Steven Spielberg's direction, and Harrison Ford's determination combined for maximum tensions. I remember feeling that tension in that moment when he's about to grab that idol and place a stone in place of it, bag of sand, and then he's suddenly running for his life. Yes. And remember the big boulder chasing him, and
oh man,
and so it only just started a series of problems for him afterwards. Throughout the entire movie, but
the whole franchise, right? This set the stage of who Indiana Jones is, really,
100%. So, I do believe this belongs on the top 10 list.
Yeah.
We'll argue about some others here in a little bit. So
yeah. Yeah.
Keith, what
So
about
so
you?
yeah, number 8 on the list is from, and again, this is debatable because there's a heck of a lot of scenes in this movie, and the movie's 1985's Back to the Future, and the Watch Mojo decided that the scene that they wanted to talk about in particular was the Johnny Be Good guitar scene at the prom. And really, it's a pretty cool scene. It talks, when Michael J. Fox starts getting into it. I think my favorite quote is starts going off into like the heavy metal, jumping off of guitars, knocking speakers down. And he says, "You may not appreciate this, but your kids are going to love it." I love that quote. It's so true. And so it's a great scene. There's again, I mean, how many scenes, the one thing is like, you made a time machine out of DeLorean. I mean, there's so many scenes in Back to the Future that could be on this. I don't know how you have to pick one. I think they did pretty good with this because it really showcases, Michael J. Fox at his craziest, and trying to get through his hands starting to fade and the picture starting to fade and trying to connect is good stuff. So yeah,
Yep.
I think that the movie, even though the scene might be argued, the movie definitely has to be on the top 10. So
Yep.
Noel, what do you think? What else?
Yeah, I thought the one of my favorite lines from Back to the Future is when George McFly is talking to the young Lorraine Baines, and he messes up the word destiny and says density instead.
Oh yes, you're my density.
I'm your density. I mean your destiny.
I love that scene.
Cool. My personal favorite one-liner anyway from that movie. So,
Oh man, yeah.
number 7 on the list is the movie from 1989, starring John Cusack, and it was the Say Anything movie. You guys remember this one?
One of my favorites, to be honest with you. I
Yeah.
love this movie. Love it, love it, love it.
Now, I'm just going to test y'all. What is the scene that you think would make the list from that movie?
I mean,
Haven't seen it.
it's
Yeah,
got to be
Steve's
the
got
In
his
Your
hands
Eyes boombox, right?
Yeah, that is it. That's exactly it. It's the boombox scene where it's one of the most romantic gestures in movies. Well, I guess movies of that time certainly, but he is kind of the story is he's heartbroken and he's trying to remind me, guys. He's trying to get his girl back, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he stands outside his love interest window, and he's standing outside with this boombox playing "In Your Eyes," which is a Peter Gabriel song. And you talk about iconic. It's a bit corny, but boy, that was an iconic scene. And I think if you just show just that picture, everybody from that era knows exactly what scene that was, and everything is pretty cool. So I can see why that made the list.
Absolutely. I mean, and to think there have been so many there's so many different scenes that have recreated that one scene. So they were recreated in episodes of in the episodes of the Simpsons. Deadpool 2, he held up a mini boombox, if you remember that. The A Night at the Roxbury, if y'all remember that, Baby Don't Hurt Me, that movie. They did that scene there. The Flash had some. So there's a lot of recreated scenes where that. In fact, I want to say some of the more recent. What? Oh, you're doing the Roxbury. Me?
Yeah,
You
he
know
is.
her? Okay, I'm like, what's going on? Okay, yeah. Such a.
So number 6 is from the movie Platoon. Came out in 1986, and I'll have to be honest, 1986, I wasn't paying attention to movies. I was at school in most of the neighborhood and basketball at that point, and so I spent a lot of time outside, and so Platoon did not make a huge impact on me, but this is about Sergeant Elias's death.
And so Noel, you're the one of us that's really remembers this scene, right? Okay.
Yeah,
walk us through it.
I mean, my dad was served in Vietnam, so like all the Vietnam movies and stuff like that is like a particular interest to me, and so
sure,
this be a Platoon movie. Sergeant Elias is played by William Dafoe, and it's at the very I don't know. I mean, hopefully, not about to ruin the movie, but at the very end, his character, Sergeant Elias, is he's made it through literally hell on Earth, and gets almost to the extraction from this war zone where they're under heavy enemy fire. Helicopter lands, takes everybody that is in his platoon except for him, and he makes it right to the landing zone just as the helicopter takes off. And the camera shows him like reaching up from the ground up to the helicopter, just asking for them to come back and get him, and they can't because they're going to get blown up.
Oh man!
And then they right after that they drop napalm in the area and just blow everything up.
Wow.
And so of course he dies. But
powerful.
yeah, it's a very impactful scene, and movie is pretty. I mean, it leaves an impression on you. It won a ton of awards and stuff back in the day. But
I need to go back and watch that one. I've heard nothing but good things about it.
Yeah, it's
so
makes you think.
Yeah. So number 5, I have a funny story about. So it's from the movie When Harry Met Sally, and it's the very, very audible sound of pleasure scene that Meg Ryan does. And so the funny story about this is, so I had a group of friends over one night, and we decided, let's rent When Harry Met Sally. None of us had ever seen it. Right. And so we're in this, and it's a mix of guys and girls, right? And we're just sitting there watching the show, just from band friends, and this scene comes on, and you would have thought my mom thought we were watching porn with a mixed group of high school students. She busts through that window, busts through our little sliding door from the kitchen to the living room, like, what are you all listening and watching? You know, we all just busted out laughing, and we're like, she's in a cafe. So, but it was, it's I think, this one, there's so many good movies, but I think if I was like the one that likes the rom-coms, this is probably one of the great rom-coms with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. So I do feel like this is an appropriate scene to be in here, because that's a very famous movie of the 80s. So
have you ever been to that Katz's Deli in New York?
I have not.
Yeah, it's awesome. So when Rob and I went to New York for our honeymoon, we went and had a big pastrami on rye. I mean, that thing was massive. It was good.
Wow.
Anyway, but the mustard on it, man, it was probably the best sandwich I ever had. But anyway, so over the table where Meg Ryan was sitting during that episode, they have a sign hanging down from something that points down towards this is where that scene happened.
That's cool.
So
that's awesome.
Every single time someone would sit down at the table and say, I'll have what she's having.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So
that's
great.
Funny.
That's
I don't know about y'all, but when I was watching movies back when I was growing up with my parents, inevitably a scene like this would come on, and it just makes the most uncomfortable room.
Oh man.
I mean, I just I would act like I was asleep because I didn't want. I was like, oh my god, I don't know. That always happened to me for some stupid reason.
And I remember my parents always being so stern and like, okay, I'm watching this movie, and I'm like, what has to be going through their minds right now? Because me as a parent, if something like this is happening, I'd be like, oh, we're turning it off. And we're gonna fast forward through it,
Yeah,
it's funny. My parents, they held firm, except it was when it was me with a bunch of friends, and they burst through the door, so that's okay. So did Noel? You got number 4 here, and it's from a movie that's very famous. I can honestly say that I've never watched the whole movie.
Oh my gosh, man!
But yeah, so I'll let you take this one.
So this is from 1980. Mm-hmm. It's the movie The Shining. Starring, of course, Jack Nicholson as the main character. It's a Stanley Kubrick adaptation of the Stephen King novel about a hotel caretaker who goes on a murderous rampage. And actually, the iconic scene, or the scene that's highlighted here, is the "Here's Johnny" scene. Have you at least seen that?
Yes.
Okay, have to see that. So actually, little known thing is those 2 words are actually improvised by Jack Nicholson. It wasn't even in the script.
Oh wow!
But he burst through the door and everything, and then he sticks his face through the hole in the door that he just made with the axe, and he goes, "Here's Johnny," that Jack Nicholson voice and everything. But anyway, pretty cool. But yeah, I would definitely include this one on the list, because that was a pretty scary scene, and certainly one that is kind of iconic to the 80s for sure.
Really is.
Yeah. All right. So number 3 on this list is from the 1983 classic movie Scarface.
Oh yeah.
It is the "Say hello to my little friend"
Oh
line,
yes.
and I didn't do that right. Noel, can you do that really well?
Say hello to my little friend.
That's
I
good.
knew you would know that.
Yes.
So, yeah, as Watch Mojo mentions, all great actors have energy, but Al Pacino has something else, and that's
Yes, he
totally
does.
true.
That is so true.
So, in this unbelievably violent scene at the end of Brian De Palma's Scarface drug kingpin Tony Montana, played by Pacino, with next level, Simon takes his proverbial last stand when his mansion is overrun by men sent by a colleague turned enemy, Alejandro Sosa. Anyway, so that line emits right as they start firing away, and it's just so awesome. And Rob and I, we've been watching a lot. Like we just finished Sopranos, and we've been watching anything that's related to mob. So I want to go back to the Scarface and watch all the 1980s
Say hello to my little friend.
I know.
mafia or mob related movies.
Yeah. Have you all ever seen The Godfathers? Have you seen them all?
Yeah,
I have
Yep.
never seen one.
I really.
I've not seen one.
Jeez, Keith.
I've got some catching up to do.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. So the last two movies, I think, number 2, number 1, I think are appropriately the number 2 and number 1 movies that probably should be mentioned. Do you agree, Noel?
We should save number 1 for you, I think.
Oh, no. You're as big a nerd as I am. I think both of these are appropriate.
You're both nerds. I agree.
Or we could just kick it to Steve because he's such a big
I think we
fan
should.
too.
I think we should.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
We'll drive it home.
I will grind my way through that one.
So no, I think all of us know this. It's iconic. But anyway, I'll go with the number. So the number 2 movie that they mentioned was from E.T. the Extraterrestrial. One of the great all-time movies. I remember the day watching that in the movie theater, and there's some movies that just give you a different feeling when you're in that movie theater watching it. I don't know how to explain it, but there's just some of those that you just know you're watching something that changes everything. And I think both of these next 2 movies, I think, do that. So E.T., the scene that they're talking about in this movie, and there's so many, but I think they nailed this one. And it's basically the bike chase scene. And so, it's that timeless story of Elliot, who is played by Henry Thomas, and he makes friends with lost alien creatures. But, at the end, they think they're trying to get away and save E.T., and they're blocked by a bunch of, lab technicians, cops, and everything. And then E.T. uses his telekinetic powers to basically send their bikes flying through the sky. And really just having that John Williams score in the background, you can hear it. I mean, I've got goosebumps just thinking about this scene and just seeing those bikes send off. And it's like what every one of our groups of friends wished would have happened when we were out riding our bikes. The idea of all of these kids riding their bikes, these crazy, just nothing flashy bikes around their block, trying to save their kids from the man, and everything about it embodies what we were like as Gen X kids. And I just think it's such a perfect scene for being one of the top scenes of the 1980s. What do y'all think?
Oh, totally. It's I love that movie. I was hooked on Reese's Pieces for months after that movie came out.
Yeah,
absolutely. I still can't eat a Reese's Pieces without thinking of this movie. To this day.
I love Reese's Pieces.
I do too.
Yeah. I recently learned my wife hates them, and I don't know how. We've been married for 27 years, and I just found this out. But
wow,
she was like, she not only dislikes them, like she has a deep hatred for them, which doesn't make sense. But
so does she like peanut butter cups, or does she like any peanut butter chocolate combo, or is it?
Yeah, she does.
Really?
I don't understand why.
Interesting.
Well, because she says in her mind when she reaches for something like that, she's thinking M&Ms, and then I think
okay.
I bet probably back in the day she reached for one thinking it was an M&M, and it was peanut butter, and it just screwed her up for life. So.
Kind of how I feel about oatmeal raisin cookies when I thought it was a chocolate chip. I totally understand now.
Yeah.
Totally. Go get that big bite. It's dark room. Yeah. You think those raisins are chocolate, and bam!
It's weird how that stays with you. It
does.
So long ago, it stays with you. But
absolutely. All right, Noel, drum roll for the number 1. Okay, what's up, Steve?
Not to derail us, but so I believe this episode will launch the week of Halloween.
Yes.
And since we're talking about Reese's Pieces, what's your all-time favorite Halloween candy?
Oh, I like this so much. Man, this hurts, dude.
For me, I think you can't go wrong with the Reese's Pieces Buttercups, or I like the little nerd packets too. I don't know.
The nerd packets.
Yeah.
Man,
Those are good.
They're like they're like a mouthful of nerds. It's just awesome.
Dump the whole little box in your mouth at one time.
All of it.
Just work away at it.
Just go in, man.
Okay, so I'm going to answer this in two angles. So the angle of the one that I always remember in my bag were the 2-pack or 3-packs of Starburst. Like that seems to be like a staple on every Halloween. You've got those little, and it's always the pink one, which is the worst, but whatever. So that was probably it. But I think that to me, the best Halloween candy was anyone that came in my bag full sized.
Oh yeah, totally.
So I don't know if I could answer my favorite candy, but I can tell you when I got the full size bar, I knew I'd scored, and I made a mark of whose house that was. You know what I mean? So I could go back the next year.
Yeah.
So
for me, it's definitely Butterfinger.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I understand.
And just something about how like when you bite into it and it falls apart and it's so good. And matter of fact, that's how I make my Halloween candy selections, or when we pass out candy, like the stuff has to have Butterfingers in it.
Yeah.
And bonus of it also has York peppermint patties. For some reason I just love those. Like when we would go to breakfast after church or go to lunch after church every Sunday morning. I love whenever we would leave the pancake house and get the peppermint patty on the way out the door.
Oh man,
but,
so good.
Yeah, of course I will buy the candy that has the Butterfingers in the package, but I do not give out the Butterfingers.
Those are yours. Those are yours.
Do not get those.
Man, I tell you, we could do a whole episode on Halloween candy.
We could. This is another sidebar question, but when you go to Dairy Queen, you order Blizzard. What's
Butterfinger?
What
Butterfinger.
Are we unanimous on this?
Yes.
Oh yeah. Like the second
I can't pick anything else.
The second that you mentioned the Butterfinger candy, I immediately went to Blizzard.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Question. That's the only flavor I think. I've never had any other flavor. I've had a bite of Linda's and she always gets M&Ms and it sucks because it's hard. Like the candy's anyway. Get too hard.
So another hard hitting Halloween question for you.
Okay.
What was your favorite Halloween costume as a kid? Do you remember?
Yes. So, and it's going to tie into something soon, but, so one of my best friends on the block, his mom made all of us a hand sewn Star Wars outfits. So I bought this Darth Vader helmet and she made me the entire chest piece, pants, boots, cape, even had a pouch that had the lights on it. And then they were also Luke Skywalker, and there was a Princess Leia and an Emperor's Royal Guard, the red guys. So she hand sewed all of them, and like she started like the year before, and literally had to assume how tall we were going to be by the next year while she was making it. I just the amount of care that she took to build those for us, I'll never forget it. So those were absolutely my favorite. Yeah.
I had a Dracula costume that I was particularly proud of, and I became Dracula. Like I really got into the character back in the day, and had the teeth, and
that's awesome.
My mom would like my hair black, and I mean it was a big deal. Like she poofed my hair up and stuff. But
that's totally cool.
That was mine. What about you, Steve?
So we'll find this hilarious considering what my stance is or what my little passion is on Star Wars.
I'm about to hear this one.
I had a Boba Fett.
Oh, really?
Yeah, nice choice. Yeah, I just feel like I was just the coolest kid on Halloween night. So, but I want to share this other one. So, when you became teenagers and you get invited to a Halloween party, you really, I think like 13, 14, you stopped actually going out for candy, and there'd be Halloween parties instead. And so, my mom would always get tickled by this. I would dress up as a nerd, and to get dressed up, I would go into my dad's closet and put like a sports jacket and his shop glasses, put masking tape around it, and fill the pockets full of pencils.
And, that's awesome.
I always felt my dad was a little insulted that I went shopping in his closet for my Halloween costume.
So we never knew Steve was a closet Star Wars fan, and Halloween
never do that.
Yeah,
just once a year he was a Star Wars fan. So speaking of,
number one.
Number 1 is from Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. And it is the iconic scene at the very end where it's revealed for the very first time that I was trying to blank.
Oh my gosh.
Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father, and the whole scene is, Luke, I am your father.
That sounded like what's the guy that played
Luke,
James Earl Jones.
I hope it was James Earl Jones.
No.
Yeah, that wasn't. I don't know who that was.
Anyway,
who is that? That sounded like Sean Connery playing Darth Vader.
That's what I was thinking. I was picking Noel like take a smoke puff
I
on
know.
a cigar afterwards.
I was waiting for the James Bond theme in the background.
Luke, I am your father. Anyway,
I love the story about this that nobody on the set knew this was going to be the line that came out. They all thought it was. Yeah, they all thought that the line in the script was that Obi-Wan killed his father. And that was what everybody thought was going to be said. And they kept it a secret up until the only person that knew was Luke or Mark Hamill. And yeah, pretty crazy story.
Have y'all seen the Simpsons episode where it's Homer and his family walking out of the theater, and there's this long line of people waiting to see Empire Strikes Back, and he's walking by all these people in line. He's like, wow, what an ending to that movie. Who would have thought that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's dad? And they're like, oh.
I've told you that something similar happened to me, right? I told you about the Star Trek moment.
No.
Have I told you about this?
No.
So really the best Star Trek movie ever was Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, right? I mean, hands down, everybody knows it. It's legendary. Well, so I'm waiting, literally, I'm walking into the movie. Like I'm walking into the movie and one of my friends from elementary school is walking out. I mean, I'm literally 5 feet from the door to this movie theater and I see him coming out and I'm like, oh man, was it a good movie? He goes, it's no good. Spock dies. Oh, what? Like, right. I mean, and like, so the whole movie, I can't enjoy a second of it because I'm just waiting for him to die. Oh man.
My gosh.
I was terrible. Like it would have been. And so now it's my least favorite Star Wars or Star Trek movie because of that. It's not that it's a bad movie. It's just of that. I will never enjoy that movie because it was spoiled for me. Yeah. It's so funny. Yeah. So anyway, so are there any of okay, those are great top 10s, but are there any of them that in your mind that maybe some honorable mentions of the ones that you thought that should be in there?
We talked about this before we started recording, but you pretty much pick a scene in the airplane movie.
Oh man.
And like the movie, if it could, like we're going to do a deep dive on airplane movie.
There's not enough room in this episode to do it justice.
It truly isn't. Like it is in and of itself. It deserves a whole episode. So
great.
Yeah. I'm already laughing thinking about that.
I can't wait for that one.
Yeah. Anyway,
I agree with you. So one with me, and it just makes me laugh. It's probably not an iconic movie, but it was definitely something that I think every Gen Xer will have remembered seeing. But we still, to this day, if we go out of a dark room or out of a movie theater and it's sunlight outside, we always say bright light, bright light. So like from when Gizmo said that in Gremlins, right? Yeah. So I have to say that was an iconic moment that's still quoted to this day in our family and probably many other families as well. So that's one that I think should be in there. Something about Gremlins. That was a great movie.
I always I wouldn't say this is a top 10 lister, but in the movie Goonies, whenever the kids finally get through the maze or through the map, and then they see the treasure, or sorry, the pirate ship for the first time, and just how cool that was. And
yes,
and if I remember right, seeing the notes about the movie is what we saw, the reaction was actually in real life. First time those kids in the cast actually saw that ship. And so
that's pretty cool.
It was a genuine response. And I just remember that was so cool. And of course, whenever the pirate ship actually went out into the ocean, and that was pretty neat as well. But,
that's and so coming soon, we're going to have a whole deep dive discussion on the movie of the Goonies, because that's a Gen X staple. I mean, it's gotten better over time. Such a good movie. That's a good one. So I thought it was a pretty solid list, though. I really did.
Yeah,
for sure. I'll offer one more more that is thought of that just cracks me up. And the Three Amigos wasn't in the 80s, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So the scene where
86,
where it's
oh man,
Martin Short is on top of that wall. It's like cuckoo, cuckoo, you too.
That is for that is.
Was it Steve Martin? Wasn't it Steve Martin?
It was Steve Martin.
Yeah. Hey, yo, guys.
Hey, guys.
Look up here. Look up here.
Martin.
Oh man,
that's such bad memory recall.
That's
That is from 1986. Do you guys remember the scene when Jefe and El Guapo are talking about the piñatas?
Oh yes.
I have put many beautiful piñatas in the storeroom. Each of them filled with little surprises. Mini piñatas? Oh yes, mini. Would you say I have a plethora of piñatas? a what? A plethora. Oh yes, yes. You have a plethora. Jefe, what is a plethora? Why, El Guapo? Well, you told me I have a plethora, and I just would like to know if you know what a plethora is. I would not like to think that a person would tell someone that he has a plethora and then find out that person has no idea what it means to have a plethora. Forgive me, El Guapo. I know that I, Jefe, do not have a superior intellect and education. But could it be, once again, you're angry at someone else and looking to take it out on me?
And at the end, he's like, and he has that. Maybe.
Maybe.
Another classic. Oh my gosh! And maybe we can go out there and you can kiss me on the veranda. Oh, lips will be fine.
The scene where they're on the horses and they're like out in the middle of the desert.
Oh, drip.
Yeah, well, that one. But they're drinking
the canteen.
The canteen is like one of them's got sand, one of them's completely empty, and one of them's he's just pouring water all over his face, and he like puts lip balm on. Lip balm.
Lip balm. That's up there with Airplane on the amount of quotable quotes.
It is. A plethora? Oh, that's a great movie. Oh, yeah, man. I mean, good solid list.
Yeah,
certainly could be some others. I think they didn't add a lot of comedy ones to that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a lot more serious, like drama.
Yeah.
But man, there's some comedies from the 80s that are just classics.
Oh, without a doubt,
so funny.
It really is. But it was a good enough list that made me start thinking of others, which was cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So hey, what a fun trip down memory lane when it comes to greatest scenes of the 1980s movies. Hope you all enjoyed that. Plus, maybe let us know what your favorite Halloween candy, or maybe what your favorite Halloween costume was as a kid growing up. We'd love to hear about it.
And what you put in your blizzard.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Your blizzard. If you don't do Butterfinger, you're not doing it right. So.
Yeah. Gosh, I can't believe. Well, I can believe because you guys are good people, but I can't. Yeah. We have the same flavors.
Excellent taste buds. Yeah. Good taste.
Yeah.
Man, there's no other one in my opinion. Like I've tried others, and I always come back. I always come home.
Yeah, for sure.
Good stuff.
Anyway, we should put up a poll or something on our Facebook page or something when this episode gets released.
I think we should. Yeah. Agreed.
Anyway.
Well, thanks to everybody for joining us on the Gen X journey, and have a happy Halloween. Take care, everybody.
Boo.
See you, buddy. Boo.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the Gen X Journey podcast belong solely to the hosts and guests and do not necessarily represent the views or opinions of any entity they are associated with. The information provided is for entertainment and informational purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to seek the advice of qualified professionals for any specific issues they may face. The creators and contributors of this podcast make no representations as to the accuracy, completeness, or validity of any information, and will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its use.